Welcome to the Addiction Connection podcast, connecting the hope of the gospel and the heart of addiction. I'm Mark Shaw. This is C.J. McMurray. He's my guest, so I'm going to interview him now, and he has no idea what I'm going to ask him. But I'm going to read James chapter 5, starting in verse 19. It says, "My brothers, if anyone among you wanders from the truth and someone brings him back, let him know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins." If that doesn't encapsulate what you do and Ben does and Jason Gerwell and Michael Adrian at the Refuge, then nothing does. I mean, this is what you guys are doing. You're helping men who have wandered from the truth, and you're bringing them back to the truth. Some of them maybe never born again, but you're helping them, and you're saving their soul from death and covering a multitude of sins that could take place in the future. I just think, man, I'm so grateful for you and what you do at the Refuge. Tell us about a typical day. A person, if I'm sending little Johnny, he's coming to your program, you have him fill out an application, you talk to him ahead of time. Like, what do I do if I need help from the Refuge? I call you, and then what?
Well, you call. So you call. A lot of times we get a call or we get an email from, usually it's a family member, or sometimes it is the individual itself. And then we set up. We have them. We send them to the website and to where the application is, and they fill out the application. And then we set up a phone call with them. And then we usually set up a interview if they're serious about coming. And we kind of lay out a lot of the first things we tell the guys is just kind of the way it's going to look. Phase 1, phase 2. We talk about the chicken farm, Rose Acres, because that can be, that you'd be surprised when people find out they have to come work at a chicken farm in phase 2. That's really difficult.
A chicken farm sounds like kind of like fun to me, because I do like chicken, but it's not fun. It's dirty. It's hard work, right?
I would say in many ways it's dirty and it's not glamorous, and there's something kind of humbling about it for some people, but it's not. Most of the guys that have went said it's not like physically hard or taxing like being a bricklayer or heavy construction worker or something. Would be. Now,
Rose Acres, we get our eggs sometimes from Rose Acres.
Yeah, they're actually I think that the owners are actually they are a Christian family, because they have Bible verses and stuff on
the back of the carton.
Yeah, and they're kind of they're all over the place. Indiana, I think maybe is their home base.
Oh, okay.
But
know that.
Yeah,
But there's a Rose Acres right there near Winterset.
Yeah, right in Winterset,
Iowa.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
well,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. So they're having to do this hard work.
Yeah.
And you tell them, hey, that's part of the program.
That's part of it. And God uses that. That's what we have found. We didn't really plan on Rose Acres being a part of that. In God's providence, He kind of connected us with Rose Acres, and that worked out. And they hire almost all of our guys get hired by them. And so it wasn't part of our plan, but it was part of God's plan. And so they work. In phase 2, they work from 6:30 in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then that way they can still do their classes in the afternoon and their counseling and the different groups that we have them go to and be a part of. But back to the process, we usually try to do a Zoom video call or a 3-way call between me, Ben, usually it's me, Ben, and the individual. And then we just kind of ask questions. And it's good to have Ben and I, because you and I, Ben and I are very different.
You're different guys.
And he'll see things.
We love Ben.
And yes, absolutely. He'll see things or hear things that I don't, and vice versa. I'll see things. And so we just ask different questions, and we just want to make sure that the guy seems to be serious and is going to be a good fit. Now we know that not everybody's going to be like, most of the time you think about guys they're not excited, super stoked about coming to a residential program all the time, because their circumstances and the things that brought them to this place are not pleasant. They know they need to do something, and maybe they were forced a little bit by their family, but we want them to kind of know what they're getting themselves into. That way they can't tell us in 2 days, well, you never told us that I was going to be doing this,
Right.
And so and then once we have that interview, it's a background check and very basic things, like they can be there within 3 or 4 days. So we've changed some of our processes where it's a little quicker and easier to get in. And then we have a $750 initial fee that they pay.
Yeah.
And sometimes churches or individuals will help them pay that or but we don't want, if we have a serious candidate, we'll find a way for them to get there. And then the great thing about our program is once they get into phase 2, so that covers, and we cover all their food, all their hygiene. So that $750 covers all that first month, having everything, all their curriculum, all their counseling.
Doesn't even touch those salaries and all the other expenses.
And then, so when you get into phase 2, they work at Rose Acres. They earn a paycheck, and then they pay us programming fees, and then they also can save money. But all the while, if they were smart, they wouldn't spend any of their money because they don't need to, because everything is provided, all their hygiene, all their food. Yeah. And they can just save their money for the next step.
And you've had guys that saved a lot of money.
Oh yeah, we have. We've had guys anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000. Some guys have saved because
that's great.
Some of them would get bonuses and different things, and they'd just be like putting that in the bank, to take that next step. So that's kind of how it works.
Who made the decision for little Johnny to get in the program? You, Ben, a team decision?
It's a team. Yeah, we usually we'll talk afterwards, and usually even during the interview when we're on the phone, Ben and I will kind of look at each other and give the old thumbs up, and we're both on the same page, and then we just say, hey, well, if you're ready to do this, we're ready to. And then we usually pray with them. And then next thing you know, they're making arrangements and so we get people from locally around the Winterset area, and we get people from Seattle, Washington. We've got people from all over the place. So, and a lot of our people come through the Addiction Connection website. You
better believe it.
Yeah, that ACBC.
Yeah,
different. It's people that want to send their loved ones to a biblical counseling program.
Yeah,
this is not. We're not a rehab. We are a men's residential discipleship program.
Yeah.
And every guy that comes there that has been to rehab, the first week they're like, this is nothing like rehab. Right. Oh no, it's not. It's a residential discipleship program.
More of a family feel than a clinical, cold hospital, sterile feeling. Yeah, you want that. You want the guys to feel at home, to feel like a family in the body of Christ.
The definition of refuge by Webster's dictionary is a temporary place that provides refuge, a temporary place that provides shelter or protection.
Wow.
A temporary place.
Yeah.
And I always try to tell people too, ultimately, we don't want you to find refuge in the refuge, the program. Right. We want you to find refuge in the refuge, capital T, capital H, capital E, capital R, capital E, capital F, capital U, capital G, capital E. I hope I spelled that right. Yeah. But the refuge, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That is ultimately who your refuge will be. And he's not a temporary place. So, but we do want to provide a temporary place of, where guys can come and get their eyes on the Lord and get help and hope for the underlying struggles, heart, issues that they have that have led them to the refuge.
When you think about some of the communities of guys in the program and the communities meaning like the guys in the program, when it went well, what kind of things were you seeing in the guys when you had a good group of guys, when because sometimes you'll call me and you'll say, man, we've got a tough group right now. Or sometimes you'll say, we've got a good group right now. What's a good group of guys look like at the refuge?
Yeah, that's great. No, I'm glad. Well, a good group of guys they're all guys. And again, they all have their struggles and their issues, but they're guys that they want to be there. Like they want to get help. They're all on the same page that they're all pursuing. They want to know Christ more and they want to be changed and they don't want to live the way they were living. And so they all got to kind of have that common goal. And you see it when just the way they interact with one another and the way they serve one another.
Yeah.
And as you see that continuing to grow and they're counting others as more significant than themselves, they are concerned about, oh, you prefer that I don't leave dishes in the drying rack and you want me to put them away, then I'm going to do that. Because not because, even though it's not a big deal to me, if it's a big deal to you, I want to do that.
Yeah.
It's those kind of things that you see where they're preferring one another, they're praying for one another, they're encouraging each other. And it doesn't happen. It's not like that all the time, but we have had seasons, and they're speaking truth and love to each other. Yeah. They're calling each other out. Because the real good stuff happens when the staff is gone, when the staff is not right there. A lot of times when Ben and I especially are around, all the guys seem to be, for the most part, they show their best faces when but when a lot of times when we're gone, the house manager sees a side of the guys a lot of times that we don't.
Yeah.
But overall, like even right now, we have a pretty healthy group, and I'm thankful for that. But yeah, we have had some times where it was quite toxic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you do have to remove, and we don't remove people very easily. Ryan Arrington would tell you that when he was back in the day. I love Ryan, and I know he would, but back in the day when he was our house manager and he was in programs, residential programs, mm-hmm. but that guy, like, man, when he would get tired, he'd be like, kick him out. He'd just say, and he wasn't necessarily wrong. I mean, in some ways we had justification to kick guys out,
right?
But he'd just be like, yeah, he's not serious. We just need to kick him out. He's toxic. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that about Ryan, though, that Ryan, there comes a time where you do have to do that. And there's probably times where I'm a little too soft and mm-hmm. Maybe give too much. And so it was good for me to have that. But Ryan will tell you, in some ways, I think I grew in being a little bit, sometimes I needed to be a little more of a truth teller, mm-hmm. but Ryan would tell you that he probably grew a little bit being at the refuge in just extending grace mm-hmm. At times. So I always joke around with, first, Ryan, kick him out, Arrington.
Yeah. Oh, really? Wow.
Kick him out. But Ryan, and what's great about Ryan is, like, you think about his testimony.
Yeah.
He had been through so many different programs within the Addiction Connection, and just the way the Lord is. And now he's pretty much in the same role that I am out at the Damascus House.
Well, we've got a video of you in one of our courses on counsel, the behind the scenes course, like what's it like at a residential program. It's you and Ryan talking about some of these
You're right.
things.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both grew. He's iron sharpens iron. So one sharpens another. He's a blessing. Such an encouragement. Him and his wife, Abby.
Gifted guy.
Yeah.
And it is funny. Like, he was kicked out of programs, and so he had a short, view of the, like, these guys, like, they're not serious. But I think he knew, like, he wasn't serious.
Right.
So he's like, why are we messing around with this?
Exactly.
I wasn't serious. They're not serious.
They're going to have to hit the wall.
Yeah.
That's kinda, and sometimes I think he was right. I'm not saying he wasn't right.
No, But that was his, like, he's just like, why are we doing this? And I could see him. Yeah.
That's good.
Well, that's good. Well, how do people get in touch with you at the refuge?
So our website is www.refugewinterset.com. Mm-hmm. And then our Facebook page, Refuge, you can just go to Refuge Winterset. That's the easiest. If you punch in Refuge Winterset, you're going to get to our
Winterset, Iowa.
And it'll give you a phone number. I don't have the phone number right off the top of my head. That's one thing. I don't remember phone numbers.
No, that's okay. Winterset is how far south of Des Moines?
30 miles.
30 miles. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're about 30 miles. So we're real close.
Yeah, you're not far from Des Moines. Okay. That's good. Because most people, I think, know of Des Moines. They might not know where it is on the map.
Right.
I don't think I do.
Some people call it Des Moines.
Des Moines. Yeah. That's where Andy Biddle is there.
Southside Living Water Fellowship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's on the board of directors for the refuge, too.
And that's our last thing I want to ask you is, your relationship to the local church is important to you, and is important why?
When I go back to, I got out of prison in 2008, and the local church and my wife was God's meeting my wife, and was God's provision of keeping me on this path. Like, that's the reality. When I think of the two things, I mean, ultimately it's God, but God, the means that he used was the local church and my wife.
Humanly speaking, those
are the things that.
And that's what you want these guys that come to the program. You want them to.
That's what. This isn't rocket science.
Yeah.
If it was, I wouldn't have made it. I'm not a rocket scientist. Like, it's so simple, but we make it complicated. Get plugged into a local church and let godly men and women that are older than you, that have been at it longer than you, that are maybe very different than you, let them walk beside you.
Yeah.
Be teachable, be humble, and let the Lord do what he does best.
You know, you're bringing up an interesting thought too, is one of the leaders in one of the programs I was in, we examined one day, he said, let's look at our graduates. And we looked at our graduates, and almost all of them had gotten married to a godly person, and that helped them to stay clean and sober, doing well, all that. You're talking about your wife being one of God's instruments in your life. And I talked to somebody just a few weeks ago that said, if it would have been for this lady right here, I wouldn't have stayed clean and sober more than 2 days.
Right.
And so why is that relationship, you think, so key for people? And we can't just have people come into the refuge, guys, and get them married.
Right, because we tell them right away, you cannot, if you're not already married, you cannot get into a relationship while you're here.
Right.
Because we want you to focus on Christ first and foremost.
And that's wisdom. That's good. But why does it help to have somebody?
Because it's not good for man to be alone. It wasn't good for me to be alone.
Yeah.
I know some people have the gift of singleness. I'm not that guy. I was not the guy. I'm not the guy. I did not do well on my own.
You needed a helper.
I needed a helper, and God sent me the best.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah.
That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
God sent me exactly what I needed.
Yep. That's good.
And she's still just what I needed. Always. But I tell you, sometimes it still rubs me. There's times where she rubs me the wrong way.
No.
But it's sanctification. That's the beauty of marriage. We're called. Nobody gives you an opportunity. This is what they don't tell you at your wedding day a lot of times. Nobody gives you an opportunity to die to self like your spouse will. And that's the beauty of it. God brings two people together to accomplish something that they couldn't have accomplished on their own many times in marriage, in a godly marriage.
Yeah.
And he does it, and we have to die to self daily. And you do that in marriage and in family, and like that happens. And it happens in the refuge too, but nothing like it does in my own home.
16 years ago, you're coming out of prison.
Yeah.
And did you ever think 16 years later you'd be leading one of the leaders, one of the counselors, doing biblical ministry? Was that even on your radar 16 years ago? No. But look at what God is doing and has done in your life. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, like this is, God. Only God can do this.
That's right.
That's it. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
That's it.
God gets all the glory because it's this.
And now you're a leader in a residential program. You're a leader in your church. You're a leader at the Addiction Connection. You're in leadership roles where you're a servant leader, a shepherd leader, the kind of leader that I really appreciate. And so thank you for obeying God.
My duty and my delight, both, right?
That's right.
It is.
Well, good. Well, thanks, CJ. As you guys can tell, if you need help, contact the Refuge in Winterset, Iowa, 30 miles south of Des Moines, Iowa. Lots of good stuff going on there. God's doing great work, great church, just a wonderful organization. And thanks for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you, brother.